ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 11, The Childhood Pastimes of Krishna, Text 53. Sorry, I think there's some technical problem with the monitor. So those who have cell phone, please look for the shloka there. You can repeat after me. Muktam bhaka asyat upalabhya balakaha rama adayah pranam iva indriyah ganah sthana agatam tam parirabhya nirvritaha praniya vatsan vrajam etya tat jaguhu. Muktang baka syad upalabhya bhalaka ramadhayah pranam ivendriyo ganah sthanagatam tang parirabhya nirvrita. Muktang bhaka syad upalabhya bhalaka ramadhayah pranam ivendriyo ganah sthanagatam tang parirabhya nirvritaha praniyavatsan vrajametya tajjaguhu. Muktang bhaka syad upalabhya bhalaka ramadhayah pranam ivendriyo ganah sthanagatam tang parirabhya nirvrita praniyavatsan vrajametya tajjaguhu. Mandriya pranam ivendriyo ganah sthanagatam tang parirabhya nirvrita praniyavatsan vrajametya tajjaguhu. Mataji. Muktang baka syad upalabhya bhalaka ramadhayah pranam ivendriyo ganah sthanagatam tang parirabhya nirvrita praniyavatsan vrajametya tajjaguhu. Muktam, thus released, bhaka asyat, from the mouth of Bakasura, upalabhya, getting back, balakaha, all the boys, the playmates, Rama adayah, headed by Balarama, Pranam, life. Iva, like. Indriyaha, senses. Ganaha, all of them. Sthana agatam, going to their own place. Tam, unto Krishna. Parirabhya, embracing. Nirvritaha, being freed from the danger. Praniya, after collecting. Vatsan, all the calves. Vrajam, Etya, returning to Vrajabhumi. Tadjaguhu, loudly declared the incident. Translation unpurported by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Translation. Just as the senses are pacified when consciousness and life return, so when Krishna was freed from this danger, all the boys, including Balarama, thought that their life had been restored. They embraced Krishna in good consciousness, and when they collected their own calves and returned to Vrajabhumi, where they declared the incident loudly. Purport. It was the practice of the inhabitants of Vrajabhumi to compose poetry about the incidents that occurred in the forest when Krishna performed his different activities of killing the asuras. They would compose all the stories in poetry or have this done by professional poets, and they would sing about these incidents. Thus, it is written here that the boys sang very loudly. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Muktang Bhakasyad Upalabhya Bhalaka Ramadhayah Pranam Ivendriyo Ghanaha Sthana Gatam Tang Parirabhya Nirvritaha Praniya Vatsan Vrajametya Tajjaguhu. Just as the senses are pacified when consciousness and life return, so when Krishna was freed from this danger, all the boys, including Balarama, thought their life had been restored. They embraced Krishna in good consciousness, and then they collected their own calves and returned to Vrajabhumi, where they declared the incident loudly. So we see here the intensity of the devotees of the Vrindavan, how much affection they have for Krishna is being again and again we see with so many verses. We just saw in verse number 49, it was explained that the moment when they saw that Bakasura was devouring Krishna, because of the intense affection they had for Krishna, it was mentioned that they lost the consciousness. It was mentioned, Vina Pranam Vichetasaha. When Balarama and other boys saw that Krishna had been devoured by the gigantic duck, they became almost unconscious, like senses without life. That word is used. Yeah. Vina Pranam Vichetasaha. So they lost the prana. So here in this verse today, we see here, it is mentioned that they brought back Ramadhayo Pranam Ivendriyo Ganaha. So they got back their life when they saw Krishna killing Bakasura, and all the devotees were joyfully celebrating that, the Devatas were celebrating, everybody was very happy. But then this is how Shukadeva Goswami explains that the moment they saw that Krishna was freed from the danger, so all the boys, including headed by Balarama, their life was restored. And also it is mentioned here that in such great happiness, they actually embrace Krishna, and then they, uh, yeah, the calves were actually moving to different places, and then they brought back the calves, and then they took it back to their place. And then there's the most interesting thing. Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he points out the mood of the Brajavasis. The devotees are always, the Vrindavana devotees are always completely absorbed in thinking of Krishna. They chant his names, they chant the various activities that he performed in Vrindavana. They remember all the activities that he has performed with great joy. And the interesting part here, Srila Prabhupada points out, is that they compose poetry, he says. They compose poetry. Either they themselves compose it, or some professional poets, they compose the various activities of Krishna that he has performed in Vrindavan, and then they very happily sing those incidents. And it is mentioned here, they also sing it very loudly. So it's one of the expression of joy that they very loudly they sing those incidents. Now, the other day I was just relating the verse. I would just like to remind, this is how the whole mood in Vraja is like this, that the devotees, their only thought process is always how to please Krishna, how to always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna, always thinking of what will be pleasing for Krishna. So the other day we saw that verse where the gopis, while they are churning the butter, they were completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. They just remember various activities that he has performed, and then they think of him. Udgayatinam Aravinda Lochanam. So they sing beautiful songs about Krishna. Who are those singing that? Prajangananam Dharam Asprishat Dvanihi. So they are the gopis in the Vrindavan who were at that particular time they were churning the yogurt. So they were singing so loudly that their sound, Dvanihi, it touched the sky. So that is ecstasy in which they were singing the various pastimes of the Lord. And also, Shukadeva Goswami points out that Dadnascha Nirmantanam Shabda Mishrito. So they were churning, and they are churning and they are singing. They are all in beat, perfect beat, and with such poetry, everything is in sync, and with great joy they were singing. And what is the result of that singing? The result of the singing is that Nirasyate Yena Disham Amangalam. So when everyone chants Krishna's names or Krishna's activities, Krishna's glories, that creates all auspiciousness all around. For all those people who are hearing, they're getting benefited. The whole atmosphere is purified because Krishna is pure and Krishna's name is pure. Krishna's activities are pure. So anything in touch with Krishna becomes completely purified. Now, Srila Jiva Goswami, in his commentary, he points out that I'll just read a short section from there. So he points out that he makes one point that the example of prana is appropriate. He was their life, and when he came close, they revived. And also he points out, as on the other days, without regard for time, they had the calves return home. Or seeing the state of their protectors, the calves had scattered here and there in distress, because all these Gopas and everyone, they almost lost consciousness. So the cows were roaming here and there. So he points out that, so they were all going to different places. Now after they regained consciousness, then they collected the cows. The boys collected the cows and then glorified Krishna, killing Baka. In beautiful voices, they loudly described what he did with joy mixed with reverence. The boys had not spoken previously how Krishna killed Vatsasura. So this happened in a short span of time. And also, here he gives a reason why they did not want to speak about the killing of Vatsasura. He mentions a point that since a calf should not be killed, and they feared that no one would believe that the calf was a demon. So this was the whole point. That nobody can imagine that a demon can come in the form of a calf, and then a calf is being killed. So they were hesitating to speak about that. This day, however, they related that incident. The cowherds recount this incident later in the upcoming chapter. There is a verse in which they speak about the killing of the Vatsasura. And then Jiva Goswami makes the point that Shukadeva Goswami did not mention about this. So he gives the reason for that. He says that out of prema, Shukadeva forgot to mention this. He was in great ecstasy thinking of the various pastimes. He forgot about to mention about Vatsasura. Now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada points out about composition of poetry and the stories in poetry, or it's being composed by the poets or the devotees themselves, they compose. So this is also an important aspect in the Vaishnava practice. In fact, Krishna's Kaviraja Goswami, he describes the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. In that, he calls the devotee as a Kavi. He is a poet. And we see in all the Sampradayas, not only in all the Vaishnava Sampradayas, we see different poetries that are composed for glorifying the Lord. And that is also an expression of love of the devotees in remembering the various incidents, various activities performed by the devotees. So in that connection, also we will see some of the aspects of specifically somebody has to glorify Krishna, they have to write a literature about Krishna, they have to speak about Krishna. What is the proper mood? What is a proper perspective to it? Srila Prabhupada, in one of the commentaries to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he points out, specifically when Krishna's Kaviraja Goswami, when he was trying to compose the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he offers his obeisances to Madana Mohana, and in great submission, he sets the mood for composing the literature. He says, a Vaishnava always follows the order of Guru and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Krishna's Kaviraja Goswami by their mercy. Krishnadasa Kaviraja Goswami considered all the devotees that have been mentioned to be his preceptor gurus or spiritual masters. And Madana Gopala, Sri Madana Mogna Vigraha, is Krishna himself. Thus he took permission from both of them, and when he received the mercy of both Guru and Krishna, he was able to write this great literature, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So before performing great work like glorifying the Lord or writing in glorification about the Lord, this is the mood in which acharyas absorb themselves. They completely submit themselves to the previous spiritual masters. They beg for mercy from the previous acharyas and from Krishna himself, and they express their inability to actually glorify the Lord. And we can see in many compositions like that, not only in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya and other Sampradayas also, all the acharyas exhibit their mood of utter humility. And they have all the qualification, but actually they express that they are not qualified enough to actually glorify the Lord. And here we see Krishna's Kaviraja Goswami is pointing out that actually he says, thus he took permission from both of them, and when he received the mercy of both Guru and Krishna, he was able to write this great literature, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This example should be followed. Anyone who attempts to write about Krishna must first take permission from the spiritual master and Krishna. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and the spiritual master is his direct external representative. So this is the mood, like even with whatever activity we may perform, either it may be, we first offer our obeisances to our spiritual master. We ask for their mercy. Any activity, it could be, somebody may go to the kitchen, somebody may do puja, somebody may do any service for Krishna. We actually, before starting the service, we pray to Guru and Krishna. Specifically, a work like writing a literature or writing a poetry or anything, the first thing a devotee does is offers prayers to the Lord. So this is the mood, because a devotee knows by his own power or by his own intellectual capacity, he is not going to please the Lord. So he sets the right mood, and Krishna is very pleased when a devotee approaches like this. And also we see, on the other hand, the people in the outside world, we remember, I think one of the devotees, he said that they were out distributing books. They went to distribute Gita and other literatures. So there was one person, so he just went to they wanted to show the Gita and other books of Prabhupada, but he just went inside the house, and then he came after 2-3 minutes. He brought some books, and he said that, no, just keep your Gita and Krishna. I have already written some books, and I have already glorified. I know his whole mood, his whole expression was he knows better. He was not even actually properly respecting the Gita, and other literatures of the great acharyas. So immediately this devotee can figure out that this person is completely in mental platform, and he wants to write things in his own way, and they interpret things in his own way and try to present things in their own way. So, but that's not at all the mood of a devotee. First, he accepts and glorifies his guru's works, his previous acharya's work, and even before even performing any glorification, he does it with the permission of the spiritual master and the previous acharyas, and everything is in line specifically with the conclusions of the scriptures. So that's one interesting thing. So we can see, but other people who are puffed up, they don't respect, they compose something on their own. So that's not the proper attitude. So Srila Prabhupada further continues in this purport. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and the spiritual master is his direct external representative. Thus Krishna is situated antar bahihi, within and without. One must first become a pure devotee by following the strict regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds daily. And when one thinks that he is actually on the Vaishnava platform, he must then take permission from the spiritual master, and that permission must also be confirmed by Krishna from within his heart. Then if one is very sincere and pure, he can write transcendental literature, either prose or poetry. So this is the mood. So it's not such an easy thing to write a prose or poetry about the Lord and his various activities. So now we can just see how great are these acharyas, and also we can actually appreciate how Srila Prabhupada, he composed while traveling in the Jaladuta ship, Marka in Bhagavata, he has composed songs glorifying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he has given vivid purports on the to the Bhagavatam, to the Bhagavad Gita. It's not some ordinary work. It's not that by one gaining some proficiency in Sanskrit literature, one can just write. It's completely a devotional work, which is an outpour of pure devotional feelings, and also the submission and surrender by which one writes this. And also, Srila Prabhupada points out that, of course, when it comes to poetry or a prose work, the most important factor is the submission of the devotee in trying to glorify the Lord. Of course, that it involves so many technical aspects of writing it, presenting it, and also the different moods that are created by what you are writing and presenting, and also specifically poetry. Many things are there. But then in one of the lectures, Srila Prabhupada also sets the mood, and he makes the point. Some people we see, they get into so much of study of literature and Sanskrit, which is very much required to properly present and express it in right words. But then also Prabhupada brings in the ultimate point of not to forget the whole point of this poetry or literature or the glorification of the Lord is to remember the Lord and glorify the Lord. So in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada points out, so there is very famous prayer by Shankara. Shankaracharya has made many prayers about Krishna, especially about his Vrindavana Leela. He has worshipped Krishna in many ways. And this is his last composition of poetry. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Muda Mate. You fools, you Muda Mate. Muda Mate means you fools. He was addressing the whole world, you fools, Bhaja Govindam. Just become devotee of Krishna. Just become Krishna conscious. Prapte sannihite kale marane nahi nahi rakshati dukkhan karane. You are philosophizing, you are talking on grammar and this way and that way. Because these people, they want to establish impersonalism from Bhagavad Gita by strength of grammar. Such a nonsense they are. They want to understand God through grammar. You see, God is so cheap and he can be understood through grammar. Therefore, especially is specified, prapte sannhite kale marane. When death will catch you, your grammar, dukran, prata, that will not save you. You fools, you please become Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious. That was the instruction of Shankaracharya, and he was especially mentioned Bhagavad Gita and Ganga water. A little quantity of Ganga and a little study of Bhagavad Gita will save you from many dangerous positions. I just quoting this, that one has to understand the proper mood of studying the grammar, studying the whole ultimate point is to glorify the Lord and to remember the Lord and try to please the Lord. So while getting engrossed in literary work, you may become a scholar, but the whole important part, you need to be a devotional scholar. That will be pleasing for Krishna. Otherwise, you may write so many things, you may speak very eloquently, but ultimately at the end of the day, if the intention is not to please the Lord, and if it is not in line with the conclusions of the previous acharyas, and the conclusions of the scriptures, then it will not be pleasing to the Lord. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. And also we can see how the previous acharyas, while presenting an essay or an article in the magazines, what was the mood they had, how they were looking at various articles. So like Srila Prabhupada again points out, when he was giving a series of classes on the those words that Janataga Viplavo, Tadvag Vishargo, Janataga Viplavo, in the series of classes, Srila Prabhupada in one of the lecture he points out, he says that my Guru Maharaj, when he was selecting articles to be published in the Harmonist, if he sees simply that there is several times the writer has written Krishna or Lord Chaitanya, like that, he passes immediately. All right, it's all right. Prabhupada, while speaking that, he was laughing. He said, it's all right. That so many times he has uttered Krishna and Chaitanya, so it is all right. So similarly, even if we present our Back to Godhead or any other literature in broken languages, it does not matter, because the glorification of the Lord is there. Sometimes, we have also heard, many times Gopal Prabhu, some of the classes, some incidents he used to narrate specifically. Sometimes some big speaker comes and then speaks on the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The whole chapter is about Krishna, pure devotional service. There is not even a single word devotion is mentioned there. 1 hour lecture they give, there is no word of devotion. So that means we can say it's completely bogus. You don't speak about Krishna. You don't speak that surrender to Krishna is the ultimate reality, and one has to chant his names. This should be the conclusion of hearing from the Bhagavad Gita. But you speak on Bhagavad Gita for 1 hour and there is nothing mentioned about Krishna, or there is nothing mentioned about pure devotion. So we can see here how Srila Prabhupada is presenting. So it's not proper. So that has to be understood. And Prabhupada, he goes on to explain in that lecture, he says that if glorification is there, even they are presented in broken language, then Shrinvanti Gayanti Gridanti Sadhavaha. Just like my Guru Maharaj, Sadhu, a saintly person, immediately passes. Yes, it is all right, because there is glorification of the Lord. Of course, general public will not understand, but this is the standard version spoken by Narada. You write something, the aim should be simply to glorify the Supreme. Then your literature is pavitra, purified. And however nicely, either literally or metaphorically or poetically, you write some literature which has nothing to do with God or Krishna, that is Vayasam Tirtham. So you can see so many poets are there, they write so many things about many activities that sometimes glorify about a musician, they glorify about a sports person, they glorify about a politician, and it's what is that? Vayasam Tirtham, that's all. What is the point in glorifying about all these people? That is a pleasure spot for the crows. This is a version of Narada Muni. We should be taking note of this. And for the Vaishnava, there is one qualification, poetic. Everyone should be poetic. So, but that poetry language should be simply to glorify the Lord. Then it is just like Narottama Das Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Lochana Das Thakur, they are poets. They have produced so many songs, but about whom? About Krishna. Similarly, under the instruction of Narada, now Vyasadeva will produce a literature like Srimad Bhagavatam, which is simply glorification of the Lord and his devotees. Bhagavata. Bhagavata means the Lord, and Bhagavata means pertaining to the Lord. So pertaining to the Lord, everything. Vastava Vastu Vedyamatra. So that is the reality. The absolute reality is glorified. So that's what we need to really hear, and then we glorify. So this is the point that we see so much of. That's the whole point. There are many, there may be using so many metaphors, similes, very nicely composed. It may sound very nice also, but then what's the whole point? It's like Mandanam Lokaranjanam, decorating a dead body with all the beautiful ornaments, very nice jewelries you put to that. But if there is nothing, if it has not got no connection with Krishna, it is useless. So that's the point. And Srila Prabhupada, in another class, he makes in a Pandal lecture in 1974, he says, if you hear about Krishna regularly, then gradually you shall develop the love of Krishna. Bhagavat Uttama Shloke. Bhagavan, Krishna is described here as Uttama Shloka. Krishna is described by his finest poetry. Shloka means poetry or statement. Uttama means transcendental. Udghata Tama Yasmad. Tama is this material. So that is the whole point. So we glorify Krishna when the Bhagavatam glorifies Krishna, and the acharyas also in their various works, they use their poetical skills, poetical language simply to glorify Krishna. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a section in which, again, so having explained the mood and the goal of poetry or literature to glorify Krishna, at the same time, in the Vaishnava literatures, we have so many poetries, various works done by various acharyas. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada speaks about that, specifically in the section when Ramananda Rai glorifies Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami is very well known for his great works on poetry, but the way it sounds, it is so amazing. Specifically, it is in touch with Krishna. It is very purifying also. The very sound itself is very purifying. It strikes the heart and it creates strong impressions which purifies our heart. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is pointing out, King Kavyena Kavestasya King Kandhena Dhanusmataha Parasya Hridaye Lagnam Na Gurnayati Yachiraha. He says that what is the use of a bowman's arrow or a poet's poetry if they penetrate the heart but do not cause the head to spin? So he says that some of the poetry, when it is composed in glorification of Krishna, when you read it, sometimes by the ashcharya or the astonishment that comes from the way it is composed and the way with different words and different similes and metaphors that are being used, it will create a spin on your head. You may be completely spellbound by the astonishment that creates from the poetry. So that is, so he says, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says that. So he glorifies Srila Rupa Goswami like this. These compositions actually creates, it makes the head to spin. So then he says that without your mercy, such poetic expressions would be impossible for an ordinary living being to write. My guess is that you have given him the power. So Ramananda Rai says that to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that my dear Lord, this is all your mercy. You have made him to write like this. It's all your mercy. He is able to compose poetry like this. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I met Sri Rupa Goswami at Prayag. He attracted and satisfied me because of his qualities. Then he says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised the metaphors and other literary ornaments of Sri Rupa Goswami's transcendental poetry. Without such poetic attributes, he said, there is no possibility of preaching transcendental mellows. So the rasa vichar has got a lot to do with poetry, and then they have written so many dramas, so many poetical compositions they have made, and we will see some verses, and those who are very really expert in Sanskrit and those who know, they can very much appreciate and they can see what is the level of the acharyas, what is their consciousness, and how much they are so absorbed in glorifying the Lord. So here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita purport, Srila Prabhupada points out the compilers of the Shastra such as Sri Vyasadeva and in the later age Krishna's Kaviraja were all highly endowed poets. The Shastras compare Krishna's hue to fresh rain cloud, his eyes to lotuses, the rays from his toenails to soothing autumnal moons. When Lord Chaitanya says that without poetic metaphors, a devotee cannot describe Krishna's pastimes, this does not mean that Krishna is imaginary or unreal. Rather, Krishna consciousness is not dull, it requires poetry. So that's why the great acharyas have done this work, and their great love is expressed in the form of poetry, glorifying the Lord. Now, again, another point is that here the acharyas are pointing, they're making the point that not all the Vaishnava poets in disciplic succession wrote in highly literate Sanskrit mantras. That work is also being done, and not that everything is done like that. Narottama Das Thakur composed his songs in simple Bengali language, but the erudite Vedic Acharya Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur later approved the songs of Narottama Das to be as good as Vedic mantras. So the Vaishnava Acharya songs that we sing, and also we can see in the Vaishnava Acharya songs, many songs you can see the translations of the Bhagavatam, or the shlokas are literally composed in simple language. You can immediately relate, oh, this is from the fifth canto. This is what Rishabhadev is saying. This is what the instructions of Krishna. This is so nicely, so that the common man can understand and glorify Krishna and remember Krishna. They composed it very beautifully. So that's the whole point. So the essence of Vaishnava poetry, therefore, is devotion to Krishna. It is not the language itself that is important, but the subject matter. So that we already discussed. So that's so important. That why we are actually specifically glorifying the Lord. The subject matter is there are so many poets in the outside world, in every language, in Tamil, in Bengali, in Kannada, in Telugu, in various other languages of the world. There are many poets. They have done some remarkable works, but then that's the whole point. But the subject matter is not Krishna. But the acharyas have done that. So in the first canto, 10th chapter, in very much relation, when there is a glorification of the pure devotees, in simple language, they appreciate the Lord's activities. And the verse says that these verses are actually Shruti mantras. Anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti mantra. The Vedic hymns in the Upanishads are sometimes indirectly directed to the Supreme Lord. Sometimes they call it Parokshavada. But the talks of the ladies were directly spoken of the Lord, and thus they were pleasing to the heart. The ladies' talks appear to be more valuable than the learned Brahmana's benedictions. So this is the ladies in the Dwaraka. They were watching Krishna coming inside, and they were having conversation, glorifying Krishna. So here, Shukadeva Goswami is pointing out that so those conversations are Shruti mantras, he says. So those are great points. Then there is another interesting thing. Once there was a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and Allen Ginsberg. So Allen Ginsberg also is a little poetic in composing some things. So this is what happened. So this is, I'm just referring to a quote from the Prabhupada Leelamrita. The American poet Allen Ginsberg met Srila Prabhupada on a number of occasions. And on one occasion, Srila Prabhupada encouraged him to write poems about Krishna. Allen said he didn't want to restrict himself to the single image of Krishna. Abandoning Krishna, the absolute truth, such poets throw themselves into the world of illusion. So that's the whole point, He said only why about Krishna, or we can speak about different forms of Krishna. They all have this, the ideas of Krishna being imaginary. There is no form. Actually, so Prabhupada immediately rejected those ideas. So that's the whole point. So here in the Prabhupada Leelamrita, Satsvarup Goswami makes a point. They do not know that everything is Krishna and that they simply lack the vision to see everything within him. Krishna is everything, is the whole universe, including every person, every soul, every tree, every flower, all life. The beginning, middle, end, and beyond. There cannot be any question of Krishna as being a limited image. So he makes the point that poetry without reference to Krishna is decoration of dead body. At a funeral, the dead body may be dressed in a tuxedo or a gown, but it is still a useless corpse. Similarly, the expert and inventive methods of composition used by the poets throughout the ages may be a testimony of their dedication to the language and to their urge for evocation. But because they have missed the central point, Krishna, their words, no matter how expertly composed, remain decorations of a dead body. And he very nicely concludes that. He makes the point that, so aside from making poetic compositions, a devotee is a poet by his poetic perception. He is not dull. He tastes Krishna in pure water and sees the sun as Krishna's eye. He uses language to describe God. He has in his mind a vision of intense beauty, the transcendental form of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He frees his own life from the fetters of what mundaners call reality and dedicated himself to serving the Supreme Absolute. Always hearing transcendental sounds passed down from the great poets of the past. So this is one important thing. We may not be very expert or compose, even we may not be able to compose, but we can show our eagerness by trying to hear the great works of the acharyas, regularly hearing the Bhagavatam, regularly hearing the Gita, regularly hearing the songs composed by the Vaishnava acharyas. So that also shows that we just give oral reception to these transcendental sounds, and that's what here Satsvarup Maharaj is pointing out. Always hearing transcendental sounds passed down from the great poets of the past, always chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, dancing and singing in ecstasy, and aspiring to please Krishna. So important. The devotee lives minute to minute in ever fresh Krishna consciousness. He is a poet. So there is a beautiful verse in the Padyavali by Sri Rupa Goswami's compilations. He says that, so now specifically in today's verse, we are pointing out, here it's being pointed out that the boys very loudly they sang about the various pastimes of Krishna. So again we are hearing from various scriptures, from Bhagavatam and other literatures, that how it is always very auspicious to hear about Krishna, to glorify Krishna. So this verse speaks about, specifically as yesterday we heard Krishna Prabhu was also pointing out that this is being summer, it's really hot, and so we need something to cool down. Specifically the waves of the Kali Yuga, the hot waves of Kali Yuga is very, it creates, not only creates sweat and the whole body is disturbed, the mind is disturbed, everything is, we are not in a peaceful state. So here one of the poets, he points out, he says that Aho ahobir nakaler viduyate shuda sudhara maduram pade pade dine dine chandana chandra shitalam yasho yashoda tanayasya giyate. So he says that Aho ahobir nakaler viduyate. So he says that the effects of the Kali can be dismantled by one who is Sudhasudhara Maduram Pade Pade, one who is engaged every step in singing the torrential flood of sweet nectar. So what is that sweet nectar? That is Yasho Yashoda Tanayasya Giyate. When somebody sings about the glories of the son of Mother Yashoda, hearing about his glories, singing about his glories, then what happens? What is the effect of that? Dine dine chandana chandra shitalam. So when you apply chandana on your head, it creates a cooling effect. Similarly, this hearing about the glories of Krishna's son, Yashoda's son Krishna, what it does, it is cooling like the sandalwood paste. They put the sandalwood and also they put a little camphor. Then both together, when it is mixed, it is create a cooling effect. So this is what he says. Now I'll just read quite some time back, some years back, our God Brother Nityanand Prabhu, he showed some of the verses how the great acharyas, specifically Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, in their works, how they have composed various poetry, and they have used various syllables. They have used a certain set of texts. How by using some of the text, some of the syllables, some of the by some ornamentation, they have glorified Krishna, and also it shows how much they are so much devoted, how much they are poetic, how much they are absorbed in the Sanskrit literature, and how expert they are. So nowadays, even you can see in the you want to compose some poem or something. Now you can go to the internet. You have you want to find out some words ending with, okay, I'm just giving an example. So ty. So you just put ty, you will see all the words ending with ty. I'm just saying in English. So similarly, there are also Sanskrit dictionaries are available. You just put the, all those words are there. Then you will try to play around with those words, and then also playing around with those words, and then you should try to put it in a meaningful sentence. And specifically here, it is highly devotional, completely trying to glorify Krishna. And also it says specifically in Sanskrit there are meters, and you can't put any words anywhere. So many rules and rules are there. So all those things they considered, and then it's not that they have some reference, they have some tools. Everything was in their mind, and they just compose various poetries. And so there is some work called Govinda Viruddhavali. There's a work done by Srila Rupa Goswami. Viruddhavali means poems, so the songs glorifying Govinda. There is also Srila Prabhupada mentions this in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the works done by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami has composed another work called Gopala Viruddhavali. So here are all the pastimes of Gopala. He has composed in various poetry like that. So few poetry will just mention. I'm not going to do. I'm neither a Sanskrit expert nor I do not do much about it. But I'll just recite some of the verses. Just by hearing those verses, you will understand what a beauty in which they have composed it. how they have just very nicely, succinctly presented the pastimes in Vrindavan as it is explained in today's purport, how they are such an expert poets they are. So now I'll just read few verses like that, and I'll just read the meanings also here and there. Now this is from Govinda Vriddavali. Now here Srila Rupa Goswami has used the word, some of the words, like Kesha, this word Kesha he has taken, and he has used it as Keshava and Keshavala, like that. He has used it in different terms. I'll just read the verse and you can. Keshavalastuta Virya Vilakshana Lakshana Bodhita Kelishu Nagara Nagara Nodhata Gokula Nandana Nandana Tivrata. So we can see here he has used the word Kesha, and he has used the word Keshava, and another place he is using the same word Keshavala, and in another place he says that Lakshana, Vilakshana and Lakshana. The Lakshana word he has used it 2 times, and in both the places it is giving different meanings. He says, "O Lord with the handsome hair, O Lord prayed to by Brahma, Shiva and Ananta Shesha." Kesha also means Ka, Isha, Vala means Ananta. So like that he has used the word Keshava, and one place he's using it as hair, another place he's using it for reference. So this is one poetry in that Govinda Vriddavali. Then again in another poetry he is using. I just read 4 verses. It's a whole big poetry there. Then now he is using the letters na and then ka. We have in the Sanskrit kakka gaghanya. So he's taking every syllable and he's composing the songs using that. Just using that alone, he's composed very meaningful songs in the glorification of Krishna. So he says, Charana chalana hata jarata shakataka Rajaka dhalana vasha ghatapara kataka Natana ghatana lasada Agavara kataka Sakanaka marakata mayanava kataka Kapata rudita nata dakatina padatata Vigatita dhadigata Nibitita shushakata. Like that, So as Srila Krishna Kaviraj Goswami says, even hearing these sounds, actually it creates such a, kind of an ashcharya, kind of his amazement. And specifically, these are not something composed, something to have some sound that will create astonishment in you, but every word that is being chosen has got a brilliant meaning as well. Oh Lord, with your moving feet, you kill the Shakatasura demon. Charana chalana hata. And then he says, Rajaka dhalana vasha gatapara kataka. O Lord, who killed the washerman of Kamsa. O Lord, who brought the army of enemies under submission. Natana ghatana lasad agavara kataka. O Lord, who dances on the splendid hill. O Lord, who wear a new bracelet made of gold and emeralds. So this is one beautiful composition. And then there is another one he has composed with ga, ka, ka, like that. Just I'll read some 4 lines from that. Jayagata Shanka Pranaya Vitanka Priyajana Vanka Smitajita Shanka Sputatara Shringa Dhvanidrita Ranga. So now we saw with ka, now he's using ga. Now he says Shana Nata Danga Pranayi Kuranga Vrajakrita Sanga Shrutitata Ringan. Like that. So many beautiful compositions he has made. And when we hear, the so-called modern scholars and Indologists, they say that, Vyasadeva is a caveman, we just mock at him, we laugh at him. We can see, we cannot even imagine what a kind of scholarship, erudition, and the poetic skills, all expressed with pure devotion. This is something which is, it's completely amazing, the works that they have done. So these are our acharyas, and there are so many things like that. Like he has composed with da, and many things are there like that. So those who are studying Sanskrit, they will really be able to appreciate great work that they have done. Even someone who does not know Sanskrit also, just looking at the meanings and how they have composed, we can really appreciate our acharyas. And we can see that's what it is. These are all spontaneous compositions from these great acharyas, and we can see these great devotees of the Lord here, the Gopas. So like that, they glorify Krishna, and then they are completely in great bliss always thinking of Krishna and glorifying Him. Now, just with one quote, I'll just complete the class. Yeah, I just at the middle of the class, I was speaking about that how Srila Prabhupada was always so much absorbed in his works in glorifying Krishna through the Vaishnava Acharya songs. Many times we see Prabhupada will be in the middle of doing so many activities. He'll be busy dealing with management. He'll be giving classes. He'll be meeting people. He'll be very much dealing with legal things, purchasing land, and so many activities Prabhupada was involved. At the same time, he took his time to sing Vaishnava Acharya songs. He will used to take his harmonium and play, and so much very deeply will be absorbed. And those who are regularly hearing Prabhupada's bhajans, you can see, I mean, there are so many devotees sing, of course, all glories to them, but specifically, Srila Prabhupada sings and hears, you can see the great intensity with which he is calling out Krishna. It's definitely everybody has to experience that. So I'm just going to read a short section. Again, this is I think from Prabhupada Leelamrita. This very much shows how Prabhupada is so much absorbed in Krishna. It says, after breakfast, when the sun had warmed the air, Prabhupada opened his windows, sat down at his harmonium and sang bhajans. As he sang with closed eyes, his head shaking, he played the harmonium. And Yamuna sat at the bottom, Yamuna Mataji, okay? And Yamuna sat at the bottom of the stairs, crying tears of appreciation. Prabhupada had been singing for a while when he stopped and called for Yamuna. Do you enjoy my kirtana? He asked. Yes, she nodded very much. The prayers of Narottama Das Thakur, he said, this sound is above the material platform. It is directly from the spiritual platform, and there is no need of understanding the language. It is just like a thunder burst. Oh, this is the word used. Everyone can hear the sound of thunder. There is no misunderstanding. Yeah, you don't have to, even some layman in a village or even an aborigine, they all know what is the thunder there. It has its effect. So that's the point Prabhupada is trying to make. That there is no misunderstanding. Similarly, these songs are above the material platform and they crack like thunder within your heart. Why don't you come here every day during my chanting? That would be wonderful. Yes, said Prabhupada. From now on, we will record. And every morning after that, Prabhupada sang, and Purushottama and Yamuna would come to his room and record. Then Prabhupada asked Yamuna, so what is your favorite bhajana? Yamuna asked Prabhupada, what is your favorite? Prabhupada immediately said, what's yours? She said, Lord Chaitanya's Sikshashtakam prayers. My favorite, said Prabhupada, is Hari Hari Bifale. He recited the gist of the prayer in English. Oh Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. Although I have taken this rare human birth, I have not worshipped Radha and Krishna. And so I have knowingly drunk poison. There is so much depth of meaning in Narottama Das Thakur's prayers. So this is Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada himself, you can see one of the Vyasapuja offering he wrote to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Very nicely he composed the poetry. And Prabhupada encouraged devotees to study and then learn. And the whole point is that by doing all these activities, we have to, at the end of the day, remember Krishna. And we can see that's what is the example that is being set by the great devotees, the Gopas. After every incident, they very joyfully sang about Krishna, glorified Krishna, and they were completely absorbed because for them, Krishna is prana, Krishna is life, as it is mentioned here. Ramadhaya pranam ivendriyo ganaha. So for them, their senses are activated. It becomes full of life only when they think of Krishna. So we should offer prayers so that we can try to absorb ourselves in chanting Hare Krishna and at least try to regularly hear words of our acharyas, especially Prabhupada and other. We regularly read his books. In that way, we try to absorb ourselves because time is very short. We do not know what will happen to us at what time. So if we can stick to the basics and then try to absorb ourselves every day in and day out, engage in service. In that way, we try to be instruments in the service of Srila Prabhupada and his mission. So that will be the proper thing for us to do. And that way we will be able to purify ourselves and please our acharyas and the parampara. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. If anybody has got any questions or comments, any other realizations? Yes, Prabhu. It's a difficult thing. Yes. Uh, yeah, that's a very. Chitra Kavidwan, yes, I forgot to mention that, yes. Yes, yes. Yes, thank you for reminding about that. I forgot about that. So there is also a work by Srila Rupa Goswami called Chitra Kavitvani. There is a book published by the Bhagavata Vidyapita. Matsya Avatar Prabhu worked on it and Nityanand Prabhu. It's a beautiful book. Everyone can read that. It has, how the, so there is there's some different kavyas. One is called Drishya Kavya. Another one is called as the Shravya Kavya. Like that, there are so different kinds of poetries that are there. And there are some poetries, by this, some of the poetry, the sound itself, the sound of the poetry will create astonishment. You don't even may not know the meaning of it, but even the sound, sometimes there it's amazing. Then another one is like you see visually, you see, the poetry is there, and if you just with the poetry, as he said, there will be sound. There you can see the formation of mridanga there. There is the movement of the when the calf is moving, the movement of the calf like that. There are so many different technical things that they have. They meet the technical requirements also. At the same time, it completely, the Rupa Goswami has composed it in such a way that it completely explains a particular pastime. He brought everything there. And then there's a formation of lotus. So many things are there. There's a beautiful book. So like that, there are so many books. Even, so when I was recently, when Nityan Prabhu was here, he was speaking about how even other acharyas, other sampradayas also, he said that Vedanta Desika also is very expert in composing many things. So he was specifically pointing out that in Paduka Sahasram, he has also, there are many verses who he has who he has used certain letters, and just with those letters he has just composed about the glory of the Lord's lotus, not lotus feet, his padukas. So like that, we and so that's what yesterday we were discussing with Krishna's bro. What is the level of consciousness of these acharyas and where we are, their whole submission, the whole dedication. So at least when these great devotees, they just give us, we can hear that and appreciate and glorify. Okay, great. Such a nectar and treasure is there in our sampradaya. And we can also see, I just remember another thing also, Bhakta Peter, who became Kushakrita Prabhu. He has actually translated many of these works. And when he came and joined ISKCON, nobody knew what he was doing. He was just a simple bhakta. But later, by engaging in Prabhupada's service in the mission, he became a great poet. I mean, he's become a Sanskrit Pandit, and he translated many of the works. So this is the power of devotional service, and it's Crazy Peter. They used to call him Crazy Peter. But then,